Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Danielle, and I am a co-founder and the project director of Do Get X, as Stephen mentioned. We are so excited that each of you have joined us today to support and hear passionate social entrepreneurs pitch their business ideas for good. But as Stephen said, before we dive into their pitches, I want to share a little bit about the process. Each fellow will have 3 minutes to pitch their business. Thereafter, we will invite our esteemed panelists to ask a couple of questions about their venture. Then we will turn to you, the community, to determine how you can support each fellow. Now, you may have attended other types of pitch events, but this one is not your typical pitch event. Not the typical route where entrepreneurs come and pitch their business, and the only way to give is through money. This is a pitch and pledge event where we provide you all in attendance the opportunity to pledge support each of these entrepreneurs in 3 ways. So one is around resources that could include financial resources. Two, skills and services that might be legal expertise, some marketing work or business development consulting, any skills or expertise that you have that you can offer to support these fellows. And lastly, connections, which could be connections to potential customers or even partners. We will use a tool called Mentimeter for you to provide your pledges. So when you're prompted after each pitch, simply go to the Mentimeter link that's provided and go on your mobile device or your computer, provide and put in the code that will also be on the screen as well. You will see a form where you can, it's a very brief form. It will take just a couple of seconds to fill out your name, your email, and what you are pledging. You will have 1 to 2 minutes after each pitch and after the panelist does the Q&A to complete your pledge. There are so many possibilities, and each of you come with something that you can offer to support these social entrepreneurs. After halfway through, we'll take a brief 5-minute break, and then you'll come back and hear the last 5 incredible pitches. We will end today, as Stephen mentioned, with the opportunity for you all to vote on your community choice. And Do Good X will provide multiple financial awards based on your votes. We hope that you enjoy experiencing each of our fellow stories and their business ideas that address a problem or need. And we hope that you are inspired and compelled to consider the various ways that you can support them. So let's get started. I now invite Stephen to introduce our panel.
Thanks, Kimberly. So serving as our panel of judges are 3 aspiring and esteemed entrepreneurs that I'm grateful to call colleagues and friends. They are Brandy Shelton, who's AKA known as the Tea Lady, is a New Orleans born Atlanta resident and the founder of Just Add Honey. Our second panelist is Matthew Ellsbury, who is an Atlanta resident and the president and chief ecosystem officer at Liftful, an unconventional life science company that works to unlock human potential by expanding access to transformative health solutions. And then lastly, we have our Averio alum, Do Good X alum, Shelly Best. She's a pastor, a speaker, an author, and the president of the 224 Ecospace, a 30,000-foot social enterprise and an art installation in Hartford, Connecticut. She specializes in equipping ministers as modern-day tent makers through the development of social enterprises and specialized ministry platforms. Welcome, Brandy, Matt, and Shelly. We're so glad for you to join us in this year's pitches. And the question is, are you ready? If so, let us begin.
The first to go is always a brave soul, setting the stage for everybody else. So, representing Atlanta and sharing a business focus on underrepresentation in commercial real estate, Jennifer Barrero.
When I was 25 years old, I accomplished a family-wide goal by purchasing my first investment property. I quickly realized that on either side of my family, I was actually the first person to buy any type of property at all, any type of house at all. This feeling of empowerment, along with the monthly residual income that I was now making from said property, quickly gave me the real estate bug. I couldn't decide if I wanted to focus on Airbnb or fix and flips, but I decided to focus on an area of real estate that is much less talked about, and that is commercial real estate. When I'm driving through the city of Atlanta, I can't help but notice the beautiful high-rise condos that are popping up in our very historic neighborhoods, as well as the very trendy grocery stores. But it makes me wonder, who gets to decide how our city is being developed? And is it actually representative of the communities and people that live in these neighborhoods? Most of all, who is profiting and making money from these developments? It didn't take much research into commercial real estate as an industry to learn that unfortunately, it remains one of the least diverse industries in the market today. Less than 2% of senior leaders in commercial real estate are people of color. As a Latina woman living in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, it quickly became my mission to change that. As the founder of Revitalized Developments, it is my mission to put people of color in the decision-making role of how our cities are being developed by creating a bridge to directly access commercial real estate and a way to invest in these developments in our cities. I'm doing this by launching my 12-month program, Revitalized Developments. We take successful mentors from commercial real estate firms and we pair them with participants that are prepared to pivot into commercial real estate. We provide curriculum as well as guided mentorship throughout the entirety of the program. And our curriculum covers key topics such as how to increase the financial acumen of our participants, the capital structures that exist today within commercial real estate, but most exciting of all, at the end of the program, we provide our participants the opportunity to invest in a donor-advised fund, which acts as an accredited investor and gives participants the opportunity to invest in these commercial developments, which they otherwise would not have access to. Commercial real estate as an industry is finally realizing that DEI is no longer a choice. It is key to success and growth of the industry as a whole, which is why I have 5 commercial real estate firms that are ready to sign up for my program today. Revitalized Developments is a key solution to this pipeline problem. What I'm asking for today is seed capital, $25,000 in seed capital, as well as business consulting services and legal services to launch and expand my program statewide. I look forward to my success in the commercial real estate industry, but most of all, I look forward to the success of others like me in this industry as well. Thank you.
All right, judges. What questions do you have for Jennifer?
Well, I'd like to say for going first, excellent job, Jen. So hats off to you for doing an amazing job with speaking up passionately about your product and your service, sorry, not your product.
Yeah, I would echo that and just say, well done. It's hard to go first, but you did a great job. And man, what a winsome, exciting model. And I just have a quick question. What made you decide to use the DAF or donor advised fund structure as opposed to a traditional investment structure or the like?
I wanted to give an opportunity for people to be able to pool their money and come together and surpass that hurdle of being an accredited investor as an individual. So that's why I went with that model.
And I wanted to say you did a great job as well. Very good presentation, very exciting. I'm ready to invest myself. So my question for you would be, you've said that you have commercial real estate organizations that are already ready to sign on with you. So what does that mean when they sign on? What is the partnership?
The partnership would be providing mentors or successful commercial real estate, whether it's developers or brokers that are ready to commit to this year-long program and guide the mentees, participate in the program and the curriculum along with the mentees, with the goal of preparing the mentees for the end of the year so they are prepared to participate in this donor advised fund and prepare them for a successful career in the industry as well. at the end of the program.
Thank you.
Well, my first question for you, Jen, how do you find those real estate firms that want to work with you? What is the incentive to them, and how do you find those mentees as well?
The incentive to them would be to create, well, a more diverse staff and pipeline in the industry to have it be more representative of the cities that they're serving. We know that having a more diverse staff and group in these industries equates to more profit for these firms. So it's beneficial on a financial standpoint as well. And we find these firms by reaching out to firms in the large metropolitan areas and seeing who's interested in making that commitment.
My other question I would step in with is, what does success look like for you right now? I hear that you're talking about going into statewide, but what would success be with your launch right now?
Success right now with the launch would be to establish the first cohort of mentees and participants who are able to participate in the program and see it all the way through, and seeing these newcomers to commercial real estate gain the confidence and the knowledge to be successful on their own post program. So that's what I would consider success, is seeing that first cohort really succeed on their own.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Awesome job, Jennifer. And now we invite you to come back. Okay, so what you'll do at this point is you will type in the code 2780 to 3243 into your text that code into the Mentimeter, and then you actually vote. And not a vote, you will actually think about what connection services resources that you can pledge to support Jennifer's business today. So it may be from your personal, your professional network, maybe you yourself, you may know someone who can help her to kind of continue that work forward. So we ask you to go to the Mentimeter.com and use the code 2780 and think about and add what you might do to support Jennifer in her efforts.
All right. Hopefully you all took the opportunity to put in some pledges for Jennifer. I know there was a little issue there with what you saw on screen, but we'll have that open for you as we move forward, and we'll also make sure we put it into the chat box if you're unable to see it. All right, so next up, from Chicago, representing Chicago and addressing trauma, particularly in the Black community, Yvonne Hawkins.
My brother, who pastors a Black church, called one day to share his struggles about caring for his people in the middle of a pandemic and social unrest. I could hear how trauma was burdening his ministry and his members. I also heard how he carried other wounds that compounded his work, partly because I carried similar ones. Our Uncle Emmett died of COVID-19 at the height of the pandemic. He was an Air Force vet and went to the VA when he felt COVID symptoms. The VA sent him home and he died alone in his apartment days later. Dwayne had to help identify Uncle Emmett's body, and I struggled later with traumatic grief. Hear me. The lifetime prevalence of exposure for any trauma for African Americans is 76%, the highest among any group in the United States. Yet in the place where Black folks go for healing, nearly 25% of pastors note the lack of leadership development to support their work. What if we fix this? Imagine if we gave the Black church the tools they need to help their folks with trauma or even thrive in spite of trauma. This is what Refuah does. I'm Yvonne D. Hawkins, and I built Refuah as the only trauma-informed congregational care training system that's tailored for Black church. Refuah, a Bible word for healing, solves 3 problems that Black pastors and their leaders face: lack of awareness of how trauma shows up in their church, lack of training on accessible ways to respond, and lack of support to sustain trauma-informed care. We solve them with virtual and in-person weekend trainings, Bible story linking exercises, and congregational care assessments. After testing parts of this training with 2 churches, we've secured 3 months of Teachable to shift pieces of the training online, plus $5,000 in pledges to expand the training beyond my brother's church so that we can reach 120 Black churches in 2 years. You can help us. Our next social and financial capital goals are to secure digital marketing assistance, $25,000 in startup costs, and leads to reach pastors, influencers, and allies in Black flourishing. Here's the deal about trauma. It doesn't kill you. Trauma leaves you alive with weights no one was meant to carry. We dare to say, to hell with trauma. We're here to say that there will be a church that cares for every Black person in that 76%, and no one will go it alone. Thank you.
All right, panelists.
Well done, Yvonne. That was really powerful. I'm blown away. I'm taking a second to collect myself. It's really good.
Yes, I want to commend you as well. Definitely there is a need for help with all the trauma that everyone's going through. So I'm really excited to hear about this initiative. I know that I've experienced it in my church with all the deaths and losses. So yes, bring it. We need it. This is absolutely something that pastors need. And we don't have enough time to figure out how to get it because we're still in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job, Yvonne. I do have a question. How do you approach, it's a very sensitive subject. And so how do you approach, or how does your team or approach to get pastors and churches on board and to help them with their congregation and themselves?
Interesting enough, The hard part isn't the pastors because they're burdened with so many needs. The pastors are the ones who get it like almost immediately. As I talked to one pastor said, just having the conversation is helpful for me. The harder part is then how we walk with pastors to help their leaders. And so what I do with them is walk with pastors in the beginning in our assessment calls to create strategies to bring their leaders along so that they have buy-in as they start the training.
And who are you looking for? Sorry, next question. Who are you looking for to help have that conversation with pastors? Are the funds going to have like social workers, specialized services to assist with onboarding the churches or offering the tools? How will you use the funds, and who? I guess that's a two-pronged question. How will you use the funds, and who are the people that will do the outreach to them?
Yep, so let me start with how to use the funds. So $13,000 of the funds are for startup costs, website, uploading the content on Teachable, getting the various social platforms that we need to have. $5,000 is for social media advertising and to start the funnel that we put together. And then the remaining is for what you're talking about, that administrative assistance, certain people who can help make the calls with pastors. So that's how that package is put together.
Thank you.
I wanted to go again and ask so I can wrap my mind around this. So I'm a pastor. I know that we've got a lot of grief in our context. I've got a lot of people grieving. There's a lot of trauma. So let's say we have a phone call. I know we need help. So what do I get?
Great question. So you get 12 hours of training and coaching assistance on 3 key topics. And really those are the ones that I talked about the pitch. But what is trauma? One of the things that I've experienced when I talk about this is that there's this kind of general understanding of trauma and not necessarily an understanding of how it shows up specifically in people's lives and in their churches. So you get training, education on what that is, and then specific skill sets, training and practice on specific skill sets of how to respond. Primarily, how do you notice it in yourself? So then you can notice it in others. And then you get the care assessment so that you can begin to say, what are the things that are showing up in our church so that we can identify the experiences that we need to respond to.
So I'm going to push a little bit more because I know my people have trauma. There's evidence of it. I know this. Okay, you can give me training so I know more about their trauma. Okay, I understand that. So how do we get it to the people? Am I going to have to do all this work, or are you going to do something for me?
Oh, I understand your question. Yes, yeah. So it's for pastors and leaders.
Okay.
Right, for pastors and leaders. So it's primarily to bring me your deacons, bring me your Sunday school teachers, bring me your ushers, bring me your women's group ministry leaders, so that we spread out the skill set throughout the whole church.
So then going down that pathway, I bring my group, they get trained. What happens next? Are they competent to serve the trauma, or what happens?
So that's another great question, because there's a distinction between trauma-informed and trauma-responsive. So trauma-informed basically says, we're not counselors, we're not therapists, but we do have enough basic skills to do no harm. What we're trying to do is create a safety container, a sanctuary, so that when you come in church, at least it doesn't make it worse.
And then my final question is, how much is this going to cost me?
Yes, $19.95, which is in line with our top competitors, which who are doing this work, but not trauma-informed for Black church.
So let me be clear, $19.95?
I'm sorry.
$1,995.
$1,995.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
And then a quick follow on with that, Yvonne, I think you've probably been looking at the cost of what it costs for a church not to deal with this trauma versus dealing with this trauma. Have you any insight as to how to start comparing those two things, the before and after, if you will?
So the insight that I get back from pastors when I talk to them that it impacts churches in basically two key ways. One is the amount of conflict, and two is the impact on engagement. And so those are like to not do this is to sign up for continued unresolved conflict and burnout, low engagement in your volunteers, which is what makes churches run.
Man, these are all great questions and more to come. And we want to maybe transition to this point to now bring up the Mentimeter and find ways that, again, our guests can leverage their personal and professional networks to support and to help Yvonne further build out her particular project. So go to menti.com, use the code 2780-3243. And again, think about the connections that you or your personal professional network have, the services, resources that you might pledge to support Yvonne to really build this out in a way that can be beneficial to the larger community.
All right, I hope each one of you took the opportunity to find some ways that you can support Yvonne's business. Next up, coming from Philly with a deep passion and drive to address the needs and interests of female athletes, particularly working with coaches. Here we have up Beulah Osweke.
When I was 11, I lost my best friend. It was my dad. After he passed away, basketball saved me. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. At my dad's funeral, this hymn provided me with the first real sense of comfort I'd had since his death. Today, I open in the Black church tradition of song as a declaration of love, tender rage, hope, and resilience. Months after my dad passed, a new father figure emerged, Coach Hunt. He illustrated the healing power that a coach could offer a hurting child. At 23, I began coaching and ultimately transformed a winless basketball team into a regional powerhouse. I became the first Black coach to capture a championship title in the prestigious Philadelphia Catholic League and the first Black woman to win a state championship in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Alongside these triumphs, I saw the potential of my young players hindered by sexual violence, food insecurity, misogyny, poverty, and educational racism. It broke my heart seeing my girls navigate daily realities I had never experienced as a child. The US Department of Justice reports that 1 in 4 Black girls will be sexually abused before the age of 18. 1 in 4. 41% of Philadelphian households generate less than $35,000 a year. In Philly, someone has been shot every single day of this year since January 2nd. If not for their involvement in sports, many of my players would not have graduated high school or be alive. Over the course of 8 years, 100% of my players attended college, receiving either academic or athletic scholarships. When I retired from coaching earlier this year, everyone asked, what's next? Allow me to introduce Pillar Training, an educational system that optimizes the impact of sports for young female athletes. The sporting industry is overrepresented by male and white leadership. At the heart of Pillar is our unique curriculum that centers the needs and experiences of the Black female athlete. Pillar has entered a chapter of product development and market research. Over the next 2 years, we will train more than 250 high school coaches, influencing the lives of over 5,000 young female athletes. Our impact will be measured through evaluation forms, as well as increases in program participation. After refining our curriculum and workshops, we will extend our services to partner with colleges and universities. I am looking to connect with sports professionals, business strategists, and financial backers to help me expand my reach. Pledge your support today and join me in game planning against racism, sexism, and classism. Pillar will raise the next generation of elite self-determined female athletes. At Pillar, we don't produce champions. We mold them, we defend them, we reveal them. Thank you.
Panelists, what do you have for our esteemed presenter, Beulah?
Well, very well done. I was very impressed with the presentation and with your story, incredible story, overcoming challenges and helping others overcome challenges themselves. My question is really about how do you scale you? So you're looking to replicate what you have been really successful with your career, with those that you've been able to coach. How do you plan to take that beyond yourself and your personal ability and really put those characteristics into the lives of those you hope to train?
Thank you, Matt. So I actually have a background of faith-based community organizing, which is what Pillar is based off of. And as a faith-based community organizer, we would train and organize faith leaders so that they could then instill those lessons into their congregations. So with that same understanding and principle and approach, I would love to train coaches so that they could expand beyond their limited worldviews and have more empathetic and understanding approaches to training their children. In addition to working with coaches, we'll also be offering team workshops as well as individual leadership development sessions, because some kids have trauma and they have hardships that team spaces is not enough for. In addition to working with coaches and athletes, we'll also be working directly with parents, because a lot of parents need to learn how to advocate for their children. So when I talk about entering a phase of product development and market research, I actually plan to hire adjunct sports psychologists as well as staff. And so I need to train them in this curriculum that Pillar is going to be based on. So I would like to replicate what was done at West Catholic, which is a school that I coached at, and help instill this into people so that they can work on their leadership. And then again, touch the masses because of their improved mentorship.
So I wanted to jump in and say, great job, powerful presentation, very moving. I mean, you got us right from the beginning. How can we not pay attention and have that heart connect with what you're doing? Definitely, I see the need. And so I wanted to know a little bit more about how this product rolls out. So people go through the training for what amount of time, at what cost, and what does it take for them to be ready to use it?
Thank you for that question, Shelly. So I am really focused on longevity and sustainability. I know that this will revolutionize how young women interact with sports, but really it will challenge how all people interact with sports. So when I say 2 years of product development, I am in the process of developing my curriculum. It needs to resonate with the people that will be receiving it. So over the next 2 years, we'll be hosting a series of clinics, trainings, workshops. I'm actually working with 3 local teams as kind of a team whisperer and a consultant, and I'm going to get feedback from them. What worked for you? What do you think was corny? What isn't going to work? Like, what is unique to your team? There's going to be an approach that's both universal and also tailored and custom to each program. So with that, I need to learn the price point. I need to learn how much I need to pay people so that they're not burnt out. I think in sports, there's this assumption that because you're working with kids and it's sports, you can do it for free. That's not fair. So I want to offer people stipends initially, and then also offer people living wages so that they can contribute to our service without, again, being burnt out and following a model that's just not working for youth sports.
No, I'm really intrigued, and I'm thinking I've just watched the documentary on Colin Kaepernick, and seeing what goes on in the sports world. And so I think you're really onto something, especially because these are times where people are doing work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think there's an end here for you as the consultant as well as the curriculum developer. And I'm curious about your ideas about your different products within your company. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I say that we offer coaching clinics, team workshops, and individual leadership development sessions. And ultimately, I am working at the high school and grassroots level. But after 2 years of refinement, I will be expanding to the collegiate level, which we all know colleges have a lot of money. So I want to make sure that the product we're offering is really top tier. I also share this with the group, and I can share this now, that I have an interest meeting with Pepsi Cola next Wednesday, because they themselves have started taking seriously, as much as corporations can, social justice and their commitment to the intersection of sports and social justice. So over the summer of 2020, I was really inspired by LeBron James and Maya Moore, who have both used their platforms as leading athletes to talk about the hardships of their lives and to really push back against that notion, shut up and dribble, you're just an athlete. For so many young kids in marginalized communities, athletics is a catalyst and a lifeline. So why not talk to coaches and help them teach these kids more than how to dribble a ball? They're already doing it with character development. So if we implement a class, gender, and race analysis, it doesn't matter who's teaching, they will be able to honor the full personhood of their players.
Wonderful job, wonderful job, wonderful job, Beulah. And now let's bring our community in to help us think about how we can support you. So again, if you go to menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and type in 2780-3243. And again, think about you, your professional or personal networks, and think specifically who you know about in terms of connections, services, resources that you could help pledge and support Beulah in her efforts.
All right, wonderful job again, Beulah. And I hope, again, each of you supported Beulah and what she has for her vision for Pillar. So now we will move to our next fellow. Here's another Atlantan focusing on ritual to engage spirit, mind, and body for healing and liberation. Esty Nina Dillard.
Good afternoon. I am Reverend Eolosha Esty Nina Dillard. Here's my story. When I was 9 years old, I started having severe migraines and stomach ache. For years, I was sick and I couldn't figure out why. We finally settled on a major depressive disorder diagnosis that I lived with until 29. Accelerated by the grief-induced trauma of my father's death, I was searching, fighting for a different way to live. There was a gap where I still wasn't quite well, even though I was going to church every Sunday and Bible study on Wednesday. This is when I found African spirituality. Discovering my own gifts in African spirituality, I now live at the intersection of these two traditions as a priest and as a pastor. It is at that place that I found ritual. Ritual has saved my life. Endless Spiritual Consulting was created at the convergence of ritual and my 4 areas of expertise in ancestral connection, sexual freedom, grief and transition, and embodied healing. Through ritual practices and the use of practical modalities, I create spiritual roadmaps to holistic wellness for African American people. My business venture uses this approach to assist Black folks in doing the very same work that has made me well. So here's how. In January of 2022, I am launching Endless Possibilities Retreats. At this retreat virtually and then in person in June, I will invite African American people to do this sacred work for their personal development, transformation, and healing. At these retreats, customers will be able to engage and diagnose their needed one-on-one work. I will follow that with digital content, courses such as queer sexual freedom and ancestral connection, workshops, healing cohorts, personal rituals, and personal coaching, and my business will ultimately curate a wellness community. African American people report a 76% life satisfaction rate, which means we spend a quarter of our lives unsatisfied in our relationships, our jobs, our homes, and our hearts. I seek to close that gap. I ask that you will support me in these 3 ways. I'm seeking a pro bono business advisor to work with me for business planning. I'm also seeking $30,000 in startup capital that would allow me to fund brand development, marketing, legal, and production costs to deploy these offerings. And finally, if you are here, I want to connect with you. Please DM or contact me as I seek to build this community. Like Superman and so many other superhero stories, we are all on our hero's journey. It is my mission to unleash Black people's superpowers in themselves, ritual by ritual, person by person, spirit by spirit. Thank you.
Question. So you're looking to do virtual and in-person retreats is based on what we
Yes.
were able to hear?
Yes. And I'm happy to share the video. If there's a way, maybe I could link it because I know there was a issue on the back end. But yes, absolutely. I would love to do a hybrid model. So right now, because of COVID, and I kind of have that built into the budget as well, I want to be cautious. So I'm projecting for June, but my expectation is to move to a model where there are 2 annual retreats and quarterly retreats. So there will be 2 virtual and 2 annual in person.
And will you be facilitating, hosting, and doing all the work, or are you looking for team members to help you with the journey and work with different modules and different parts of the healing ritual retreat, I'm assuming?
Yes, so it will be based on the retreat itself. So I'm not looking for a team as in staff, but I would be contracting with other practitioners or speakers based on the theme, based on the focus, and based on the group. So what's specific about my business that doesn't exist in the market is that it will be custom for people's individual spiritual roadmap. So as I'm working with cohorts and groups and doing courses and engaging them in the content, I'll better be able to identify what the need is at the time, and it would be responsive to those self-reported needs.
So to that, I'm sorry, I won't take up too much more time. To that, so these are group retreats or one-on-one retreats?
There will be group retreats with one-on-one experiences with me.
Got it. Thank you.
So I want to say thank you so much for your presentation. You are effervescent. You've got a lot of charisma. I will buy just about anything you're selling because it just sounds good. So thank you so much for the way you brought the information forward. I wanted to get an understanding of, once again, what does a person get from coming to the retreat, and why would they come to the retreat as their means of spiritual exposure? I'm not quite clear. Help me understand that. Why would they come to your retreat instead of anybody else's?
I think it's twofold, right? Part of it is marketing, brand development, brand recognition. Because I am seeking to target Black folks, I'm seeking to target people who are in places where they may not quite know what the need is. And through good marketing strategy, they will be able to encounter my materials to be able to know, oh, okay, this is the thing that might help me get a little further and clarify what I'm looking for. I think the other side of that is, yes, when people are experiencing wellness crises, particularly for African American folks, we aren't necessarily taught to reach out to these kind of integrated modalities. And so it's important for me to be able to take that wellness crisis and shrink it down into practical steps that will take them to a roadmap to holistic wellness.
And that's powerful. So I want to ask again about your ability to scale, because I thought I was going to do something similar, and I realized I can't do but so much with people that intensely too many times in a year. So how many times do you think you can do this? What is your self-care plan to be able to do this deep kind of work? And think about a little bit more about how you would scale.
Absolutely. So this is already the work that I do. And part of the self-care is consistent training. Part of the self-care is having my own ritual practice. Part of the self-care is taking care of my ritual being and my spirits and my ancestors before I'm working with other people's. But the other part of that is I do have a long-term vision for scaling. I do ultimately want to take this beyond just the person and being able to train other people, train other practitioners, to be able to use these modalities, to have curriculums that are disseminated globally. I have a long-term vision for sure. However, for this place in the launch, while my business right now is primarily one-on-one service-based, I'm expanding to this retreat arm. And at this stage in the business, this is my responsiveness, and I will have the capacity to execute it.
All right, thank you.
That's good. We're going to have to move. And so, Essie, what I want to do is invite you to succinctly give a summary once again, because of the technical glitch, so that people actually know what it is that you are asking, what it is that you're doing, and what it is that you need in terms of their support that can help you move your business and grow your business.
So Endless Spiritual Consulting is a business that creates a spiritual roadmap to holistic wellness for African American people. What I'm asking for today specifically is a pro bono business coach for contributions and resources towards $30,000 in capital, and the opportunity to connect. This work is for Black people everywhere. So if you know Black person, if you a Black person, if you got a queer Black friend, send them my way.
All right. So we can bring the Mentimeter up. And again, as we're doing that, think about who you know. Think about the skill sets that you or your professional network or personal network know. And think about those connections, services, and resources that you might use to help Esty to achieve this retreat and ultimately build this larger kind of community, online community of support that she's after. Go to menti.com, 2780-3243, 2780-3243, and let us know what you can do to help her out.
All right, this is our last pitch before our short break, all the way from the West Coast, addressing faith, addressing fashion, and addressing the planet. We have Lizzie Case.
In the summer of 2013, I learned to sew. I had just gotten out of a 6-year relationship that left me reeling from the effects of my partner's abuse, untreated mental illness, and self-harm. I had inherited my grandmother's sewing machine, and after diving into a few blog tutorials, I quickly became obsessed. Sewing gave me a creative outlet for prayer, restoration, and self-discovery, and has been a channel of God's healing in my journey. At the same time, I learned about the harsh realities of garment workers around the world, the majority of whom are women of color. Right as I started sewing, the fashion industry experienced the largest industrial disaster in its history when an 8-story garment manufacturing building collapsed in Dhaka, Bangladesh, killing over 1,100 people with nearly 2,600 injured. This entirely preventable tragedy launched a global movement for transparency and reform, and I found myself wanting to be part of the fight for basic human rights and environmental justice. I began to wonder, how is it that I'm so disconnected from how my clothing is made? Who is making it, and how do their experiences connect to my faith? What's the real cost of my clothing, and who's paying it? How could I, as a Christian, be truly clothed in the righteousness of Christ if my actual clothing consumption and care contributes to the degradation of the earth and the oppression of marginalized communities? In response to these questions, I have founded Arrayed. Arrayed is a liberative, people-first, planet-focused Christian apparel brand that aims to align the call for justice and holistic flourishing we find in Jesus's life with the messages on and production of Christian t-shirts. The Christian apparel industry is a $4.5 billion industry annually, yet many of the current options don't offer progressive theological messaging or transparency about their production processes. Progressive Christians deserve to be visible in the broader Christian landscape. Workers deserve human-centered workplaces and to be treated with dignity and respect, paid living wages, focused on creation justice, and free from intimidation and gender discrimination. If you're ready to align your morals with your material practices and ensure garment making can be a path towards personal and communal flourishing rather than a dangerous or hazardous profession, join me at shoparrayed.com. I've partnered with an incredible women-owned and worker-led collective in the Philippines to bring these garments to life. I'd love to connect with folks who can advise on business growth opportunities, offer guidance on the process of selling through other channels like bookstores or other e-commerce channels, and facilitate those connections. Together, we can restore and renew this industry and wear our faith from the inside out, one t-shirt at a time. Thank you.
Nice. Judges, what questions do you have for Lizzie? Because of time, we may take like 1 or 2 succinct questions so we can move forward and make sure the community can vote to support her.
So tell me a little bit about the product line that you have right now, because it sounds intriguing and you had a great presentation. So I'm one of those people, I want to know what you got. What can we do?
Yeah, so as part of my customer discovery process, I kind of asked the folks that I was talking to what kinds of ideas they'd love to see on these shirts. And so some of the things that right now we have 4 options that I'm going to launch with in about a month or so. And they range from, Black Lives Are Sacred to God's pronouns are theirs, hers, his, to let justice roll down like waters with sort of a water effect on the text. So it sort of looks like a splash, that kind of reflection in water sort of thing. So right now we're kind of launching with just unisex sort of sizing to accommodate as many bodies and folks as we can. And hopefully would love to expand that in the future as, there's interest, but that's kind of where we're starting from at the moment.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Really incredible, Lizzie. I love the story of the work you're doing with the group in the Philippines. How has that come about, and how have you been working with them to see these issues addressed?
Yeah, so I've been involved in this kind of ethical and sustainable fashion movement for a number of years, and have gotten to know their work through my previous kind of connections and work. And so the founders and the folks who run it are friends and colleagues in different ways. I actually have their some products that they've made previously and love them. They're some of my favorite things to wear. And so I feel really excited about kind of partnering with them and expanding the scope and reach of their work too. So they're really excited. I'm really excited. It's great to see it come to life.
That's really cool.
Great. Well, if you want to wear more sustainable brands and you want to be able to support Lizzie, we want to invite you to think about the ways you can support her in getting her brand off the ground. So if you go to menti.com, code is 2780-3243, 2780-3243. Again, think about the connections, services, resources that you have in your personal professional network that you can help Lizzie make this brand a reality and see them even on your own person.
All right, we are halfway through and we are going to take a brief break, and then you'll come back and hear the rest of the wonderful pitches. So stretch, get some snacks, get some coffee, get some tea, do what you need to do, but make sure you come back. But we'll be here waiting for you in 5 minutes. All right, we are back. And next up, we have another Illinois Midwesterner inspired to address trauma and healing in churches, Jocelyn Jones.
My name is Jocelyn Jones, and I'm a trauma survivor. For 8 years, I served as the executive director of a youth center in the fourth deadliest community on the south side of Chicago. Tragically, the lives of several youth we served were snatched from us by a stray bullet. And I witnessed families wailing with overwhelming grief over the fact that they will never see their loved ones again. That type of trauma changes you. And the reality is, since the start of this pandemic, all of us have experienced trauma. With 52% of people who had COVID suffering symptoms of major depression, and 40% of people reporting adverse mental health conditions related to this pandemic, our lives will never be the same. And yet, how we come out on the other side is often dictated by the resources we have and the support that we received. Now, while working at my church, I noticed that most of our members turn to our pastor for support when they experience trauma. But the problem is, a pastor is not meant to carry the trauma of an entire community on their shoulders. That leads to burnout, which is why the weight of helping a community heal from trauma must be shared. And that's where my company comes in. I founded Faith on the Journey in 2018 to equip people to utilize the Bible and mental health principles to heal from trauma. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in a healing group developed by the Trauma Healing Institute, who brought together top biblical scholars and mental health professionals to create the curriculum. I immediately fell in love with the model and knew that I needed to offer these healing groups as a service through Faith on the Journey. And as a certified training facilitator of this curriculum, I've led 60 people through a healing group experience and have trained 14 facilitators thus far. I plan to expand our reach by piloting this program at 5 mid to large-sized churches across the country. We will help these churches start trauma healing ministries by empowering their lay leaders with the critical information and skills they need to effectively facilitate healing groups, both virtually and in person, for adults in their church. Now, to support this year-long pilot, we need connection to decision makers at churches where we can pilot this program, volunteer videographers to help us market the program and create online tutorials, and $10,000 in seed money to cover the facilitator salaries, materials, and training costs. With your support, we will train 40 to 50 lay leaders on this curriculum, and over 400 people will participate in the healing group within a year. In addition, pastors will feel supported in their trauma outreach as newly skilled lay leaders step up to carry the burden. Healing from trauma is possible because with God, all things are possible. And by supporting Faith on the Journey, we can overcome trauma together. Thank you.
Wow. All right. What questions do you have? Brandy, Shelley, Matt?
Beautiful job. Oh, sorry. You should. No, I was just saying the voice. Your voice is healing in itself. So
Thanks.
thank you very much. I'm blown away how 2020, 2021 has found all of these wonderful needs and niches in the healing and the trauma and wanting to find a way to reach out and pull and help one another in the community. How do you said you've done this work already. So how have you found your participants? How do you price this model? And then how do you reach to get more participants and more facilitators?
Sure. So up to date, I've focused a lot on individuals, recruiting individuals to sign up. I have an email list of just over about 500 people that I've gathered through networking and working in the churches. So it's been individual outreach thus far, but I'm planning on now using my network. I'm a part of the RISE network. That's for African-American clergy leaders. I'm a part of another organization called the Federation of Christian Ministries, which is also for ordained clergy across the country. And so now I'm shifting more to focus on connecting with individual leaders in the church and seeing how we can work in the churches versus individuals, because training the individuals has been great. And, I can work with them to try to take it back to the church. But I recently did one training session with a church with 7 women. And I saw it was such a difference because they now, 7 women can go back to the church versus 1 individual, and they can start the process of creating a healing ministry versus just going back and just having some training. So my focus is on connecting with church leaders and then equipping them to create ministries, which will be sustainable over a long period of time.
And I wanted to add, great presentation. You have a certain calm that comes. You might not be calm, but you showed up as very calm and refreshing and healing yourself. So that adds to your brand credibility. So I wanted to ask you, in this model of training people to help people overcome trauma, what is the amount of time it would take from your standpoint to prepare people to go back in the church to provide the service?
Sure. So they first have to participate as a healing group in a healing group themselves. So that's about 18 hours over 6 weeks spread out. After they participate in that, then they work with me for 6 hours of training, initial training. They take a small test, open book test. And after the conclusion of that, they're considered an apprentice. And they go into the phase of mentorship under my leadership and a team of mentors who I'm equipping right now. And from there, they're going to be given the charge of conducting 2 healing groups themselves. And that's where I'm working like hand in hand with them and equipping them with the tools they need. Once they finish those 2 healing groups, I'll work with them again for an advanced training, just to kind of make sure they have everything that they need to go. And then they'll be considered certified through the Trauma Healing Institute.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, we need to continue to move on. And so if you want to support Jocelyn, we want to invite you again to think about your personal professional networks. We're bringing up the Menti meter, again, menti.com, 2780-3243, 2780-3243. Think about your personal and professional network of services, resources that you can use to help Jocelyn establish and grow her business.
All right, hope you took the opportunity to support Jocelyn and her business. And now we are going to move on to our next fellow representing Philadelphia, another Philadelphian, a teacher motivated to work to increase recruitment and reduce the attrition of Black teachers, Akosua Lassine.
Between kindergarten and 12th grade, I had 38 teachers. 3 of them were Black. As a college student, I was a mother to a school-age child, Whitney. She didn't have any Black teachers. When I became a teacher, I noticed how few Black colleagues I had. Like millions of Black students, Black teachers, and parents, both my daughter and I experienced racial trauma and isolation as a result. Does it matter that only 6.8% of school teachers in the United States are Black? Well, we know that when a Black child has a Black teacher, they are 18% less likely to be suspended, expelled, or assigned to a detention. When a Black child has 2 Black teachers, they are 32% more likely to graduate from high school and enroll in college. And according to the Center for Black Educator Development, we need 280,000 additional Black teachers in order for the Black teaching population to be proportionate to the number of Black students. So where do we get these 280,000 teachers? My company, called Our Legacy, will increase recruitment, reduce attrition, and expand advancement among Black teachers nationwide through an online portal that develops them in the pedagogical genius that exists between Black teachers, parents, and students. You see, between 1865 and 1965, a class of pedagogical geniuses, tens of thousands of them, wrote, taught, and mentored the likes of Toni Morrison, Rosa Parks, and Angela Davis. They were the ones who built this revolutionary tradition, teaching legacy for the love of liberation and genius of Black children amidst unimaginably inhumane conditions. In my doctoral research and through my 18 years in the field, I found 9 elements of this legacy and termed it the Black teaching tradition, a teacher development framework for Black pedagogical genius. I invite you to join me in partnering with school districts and universities to build back generations of Black teachers through this programming. We will begin with inspiring potential and current educators by gifting them with the ability to assess their power within the Black teaching tradition and receive a gift box, which includes a personalized booklet with their assessment results and a detailed pathway into and through the teaching profession, an autographed copy of an inspiring text, a certificate recognizing their place in this powerful pedagogical legacy, and elements for ritual connecting them to this tradition. With your startup investment of $250,000, I will develop an online portal and test 1,000 units of this MVS. You can also invest through school district and university partnerships, business coaching in team management and team building, or brand development. Thank you.
All righty. Brandy, Shelley, Matt, what question do you have for Akosua?
Great presentation, Akosua. I love the fact that you're going out and asking for $250,000 right off the bat. I love it. You got to dream big. But it does lead to my question, which is there a minimally viable solution or product that maybe could be tested for slightly less than that?
Sure. Well, we could test fewer, right? So the $250,000 is 1,000. So it's 1,000. We'd be looking to reach 1,000 people. And so, I could start off by testing, 50, 100, so yeah, there is room for people who want to support by helping me to start off smaller. A large part of that 250,000 is the online portal, right? So we're looking for something very sophisticated, nationwide, where people can enter, it's engaging, and so that entire tradition is accessible nationwide and really worldwide, right, through that online portal. And then content experts who are familiar with the Black teaching tradition, right? So it's one thing for me to have discovered the 9 elements. It's another thing for content experts to then create learning experiences, right, and assessments that develop and inspire a new generation of teachers through that tradition.
It's good. Let us take one other question. and then we'll need to move on. We're trying to make up a little bit of time here. So
Okay.
But once again, great job. I just wanted to ask, what are you testing?
So I'm testing, so the minimum viable solution is an assessment, right? So let's say I'm like, hey, Shelly, you're a current teacher, you're a Black teacher, you're burnt out, you're thinking about quitting. The district is going to gift you, like, hey, did you know you're part of this amazing legacy, right? I'm going to gift you with the ability to assess yourself with the legacy. So sort of like 23andMe or like, Myers-Briggs. But then instead of just a 1 through 2, 3 check mark, you get that whole gift box with a personalized booklet that says, you remind us of Mary McLeod Bethune, right? Or Anna Julia Cooper. And here's your personalized Shelley's Legacy booklet that also gives you a detailed pathway, right? You might be burned out, but here's a detailed pathway. Did you know that Mary McLeod Bethune was burned out halfway through her career, and then she started her own school, right? So here's your detailed pathway to meet you where you are. You get the book, the certificate, so inspirational, right? And connecting with that powerful legacy. And that speaks to a lot of what's happening, why Black teachers say, so the studies say that Black teachers leave because they don't have autonomy, and because their words and their opinions don't matter. So connecting them, saying, hey, no, you come from this legacy that changed generations of people, and it empowers them. So some symbolic, but really like, no, girl, don't quit, right? We got you. You're part of something bigger.
man, that is phenomenal. Phenomenal. So if you want to help Akosua scale, or maybe help her think more specific about her business idea and how she can actually get this off the ground, we want you to support her. So menti.com, 2780-3243. 2780-3243. Think about who you know, what resources you could bring to bear in supporting her in her efforts.
All right. Again, as always, I hope you went to menti.com and found a way to support Akosua and her business. Moving on to our last Atlantan in the bunch, we have someone who is inspired to serve the unmet needs of people in their later stages and later years of life who are experiencing isolation. Here we have Shanice Turner.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shanice Turner, and this is Mind Refreshers. Come with me on this journey and be prepared to open your mind. So in 2014, my mom had a multiple sclerosis relapse, and I will have to travel from Atlanta to Chicago a few times a month and help her get adjusted to her new normal and my new normal as her caretaker. As I would see her, her friends, family, other staff members at the nursing home would tell me how much she'll do better, as if her mind was refreshing. I would play games with her. I would sing. I would dance. I would play cards and bingo. I do know what BB King is because of her. And we would do activities. It was as if her mind was being renewed and refreshed. And as I sat down with my mom at dinner and her friends who thought I was visiting them as I was visiting her, how can I help this population? How can I help people like my mom, people like her friends, and most importantly, people who don't have family and friends to come see them in the nursing homes. And I created, I wrote Mind Refreshers. Mind Refreshers is here to serve and meet the unmet needs of people in their latter years of their life. We want to make sure that we do activities that haven't been done before. It is difficult to make sure that people are being engaged. They're isolated. And in this isolation, even more so in COVID-19, 90% of people in a nursing home have never went outside. That means they never went outside to see the flowers and to see the leaves change. 60% are still going through this. And 50% have no access to activities. No board games, no singing, no dancing. With Mind Refreshers, that is what we're going to do. It's a tragedy to me, and it's a big disconnect. And even with LTCs, known as long-term care providers, there's a great need for home and community-based services like Mind Refreshers. The programs that will be aimed to serve will be doing a yearly curriculum activity books. So that will include those crossword puzzles, the brain activities that you saw in the logo, the tic-tac-toes, the Rubik's Cubes, so that 50% of the nursing home inhabitants will have access directly to these activities. There will be a 6-month pilot program between a young person, the nursing home person, and staff to make sure, and a caretaker, to make sure that we are meeting that visitation needs and that they wouldn't be in isolation there. We will be a mentorship component added onto that, and we will be documenting the series. Can you imagine the stories that are told and not being told in the nursing homes? They're held in their minds and trapped in their hearts, but not being able to be out in the world. I want to make sure that these hidden heroes in our society that have been overlooked and underserved are being looked at and served, and their stories are being told. I have saved $5,000 to launch this. I am asking for $25,000. 40% will go to design, 35% to staff, and another 40% to make sure that we're serving not only our youth, but the volunteers that have come in, because this is service, and service should always be paid. I'm also looking for board members, if anyone here wants to serve. I'm looking for those curriculum developers, the researchers, the brand managers, and an elderly and a young person. Make sure that we're serving this population correctly. I'm looking for partnerships, sponsorships, and those who want to be angel investors. I say thank you. And thank you for listening to this pitch and listening to Mind Refreshers. Thank you.
All right. Judges.
Yeah,
I want to say, congratulations on a wonderful presentation. And what inspires me as a pastor is having so many elders in the church. It's very uncommon to hear of any other opportunities for them. So thank you so much for thinking of a very important population and offering a service that's so very much needed. So tell me a little more about how this might roll out. How will you get it in the hands of people more?
So right now I'm speaking with an organization called Boston PIC, and we're looking at how can we roll this out for volunteers, right? Trying to make this a win-win situation, since this is service. And when you go into a nursing home, we already know, I've been going since I was a child. Before I knew what cookies smelled like, I knew what a nursing home and a hospital smelled like. And that's just honestly, but they have cookies at the nursing home, so that helped me. So we want to do a focus group, because it's important to do this correctly. I want to be so succinct, so careful, because we are doing this with a population that isn't being considered when it comes to community. So with the focus group, we will interview a few of the nursing home inhabitants who are, very cognizant, a staff member, a young person, and a staff member from Boston PIC. And they will be able to see if this is working. Okay, don't do that. You're going to need more than 25,000. To be able to co-lead this, it's important for me to make sure that we are doing this succinctly and carefully, to know that there's organizations willing to look into this support. It makes me really happy to know that there's an extra level of support in doing this.
Powerful.
Yeah. I think of the potential energy that you just talked about of, it's just, you often look at it when people are looking to find new resources or clean energy, et cetera. But it's the same thing. There's an untapped potential energy in the minds of people that society have said that they're not valuable anymore because of their age, and you're uncovering that, and I just want to applaud you for that and think that's just incredible. So yeah, well done. And how are you looking to connect people between people that are not it's not a family member or something, people that would normally be neglected or left behind? How can they plug into Mind Refreshers based on your model?
So I do have an email address, and we're always looking. I'll make sure to put that in a chat. We're looking for, of course, volunteers to be able to do this too. And we're looking for support. So if you want to email me and follow our social media and our website, that's a good way to stay connected. We do hope to build this out where it's like a portal where people can feel more connected. We know virtually you can only touch so much, but hey, as long as we can give each other a high five.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we want to again invite the community to think about how you can crowdsource and support Shanice supporting her project of addressing something that's really important. So again, go to Mentimeter. You see the code 278-03243. 278-03243, menti.com. Support her.
I hope you all took the opportunity to go to menti.com, type in that code, and support Shanice and her business, Mind Refreshers. We have our other West Coast Fellow up, focusing on the availability and accessibility of after-school programs, Jenny Williams.
How many of you out there are working families who send their kids to after-school programs? I was one of them. I had such an amazing experience, grades K through 12. I got to see curriculum and programs and got educational opportunities that really changed the course of my life. It prepared me for a really bright future. Now I'm a public school educator and an after-school program manager, and that is all thanks to the after-school programs. Unfortunately, for many of the families I serve in South Hayward, California, that is not the case. When these families go to seek after-school programs, all they hear is no. They hear no from the school site because the after-school program is closed. They would love to take the kids, but they don't have enough space. They hear no from private companies because the fees are too expensive. And they hear no from public programs because they're either too far away or too short-term, only 2 weeks at a time. That doesn't really serve the kids. So the problem as I see it is availability, affordability, and accessibility. And that reflects in the larger state stats that show that 50% of families that are seeking after school care can't find a program that fits their needs. And over 850,000 elementary school students are sitting at home on the couch during after school when they could be having the educational fun and opportunity that I had. If you use those statistics, in my community alone, there's about 300 students and families that we could serve with after school who are currently sitting at home on the couch. As a local community member and as an educator, I couldn't sit still any longer and see that continue to be. How can we solve the after school crisis in our communities? I came up with this solution. It's called Forward, Unique Education, Unique Future. Forward is an after school year-round program that's clubhouse style and is specifically designed to serve the needs of elementary school students. It meets 4 needs that families communicated to me during the customer discovery phase. 1, they want a safe and secure location for their kids to be after school. 2, they want a student-centered curriculum that will address every student's academic and social needs. 3, they want support from experienced teachers in a small group setting. And 4, sliding scale pricing so that every family can come who wants to. What we are seeking in investment is $50,000 in investments or in-kind donations to help us run 2022 in South Hayward for the first 30 students. It will allow us to get the 4 key resources we need to get up and running. 1, a location within 1 mile, that's walking distance, between 3 elementary school sites. 2, competitive teacher pay so that we can pay for the best and brightest teachers in our community. 3, 21st century technology to support our students now and also prepare them for a 21st century future. And 4, food and snacks, because of course we have to send the students home healthy and happy. The impact of this in 4 years is that half of the students, 150 students in 4 years could be off the couch and getting the same opportunities I had. Then they can be prepared for their unique futures the way I was. And it's not limited to South Hayward. As you saw, it would start in South Hayward, go to California, and hopefully all around the country, because South Hayward is not the only community that needs great after-school opportunities for kids who are not being served. So join us today, invest in Forward, and of course, let's move forward together. Thank you.
Excellent job. Love the name, love the concept, love the idea. As a mother of 2 young kids, it's always a challenge. You know, what are you going to do after school to keep them engaged? So thank you, Jenny. My question for you is, how are you going to market this to the teachers, schools? What does your marketing plan look like?
Absolutely. So for this first site, I'm in a public school, and so I've built, one of the things I find very important in education is building relationships. And so I have a huge network of teachers in Hayward Unified, which is the district we work in, where I can easily, there's no problem finding students. The most effective way we can market is person to person. I was an after school program manager before for a nonprofit organization. And we went from 2 students to 30 students in about 3 weeks just on word of mouth. We never placed an ad, never did anything except provided that great service that Forward's based on. So I think when you have a great program, it kind of sells itself. But teacher referrals, a lot of principals who have needs in their community and see them, send referrals, but really having the referrals in the classroom is my main mode of communication.
That's good.
You have data. Great job, Jenny. I thought that was an incredible presentation and such an important need. Have you seen a couple of questions? One is on the It seems like something like this would be, there'd be stats, there'd be data out there that shows the value of after-school programs and kind of macro sense of what it means for a community, what it means for the health of the community, what it means for child development, all of those types of things. Is there an opportunity to pursue public funding in line with those stats where you're able to show an evidence-based marked change in the reality of a community when you're successful doing what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. So the reason why we can offer sliding scale pricing is because we are completely confident that we can get grants. There's a program there's 3 community foundations that would serve our area that I definitely would pursue after the first year. Of course, they want to see it in action. They want to see those stats. They want to see the progress students are making. They want to see parent testimonials, all those things. So this initial investment would be to get us started. And then after that, we'd have program revenue from the families. We believe that grants would come in. We have, we're in Silicon Valley. So this particular location, we believe we could also attract corporate sponsors, maybe to donate the equipment, site donations. So this would be a capital stack where it wouldn't just be program revenue. We would definitely pursue grants. There's a 21st Century Learning Center program that would provide state and federal funding long-term. And so that would be a way for our organization to be sustainable in addition to program fees.
Man, this is great. And we got to stop there and say, hey, wonderful presentation. And if you know people in your own community, in your own professional network, who are in education and otherwise who can support Jenny, by all means, we want to connect. We want you to connect them and your resources with her vision. 27803243, menti.com. 27803243. If you have connections, services, and resources that you want to use to leverage to help Jenny make this after school vision a reality.
All right. Hopefully you took this opportunity to move forward with Jenny and forward. So we are near the end and we want to thank each one of you for being with us this far. Our last pitch today, but definitely not least, is someone who's coming from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, focusing on financial literacy for faith leaders. Here we have Race Lamb.
We have all heard it said before, God will provide. Yet 76% of our pastors know of a colleague who has had to leave ministry due to financial hardship. Let that sink in. People God has called into ministry are having to leave ministry because they can't afford to follow God's call. God does provide us with so much, but we fail to equip our faith leaders with a key skill they need to flourish in their vocational call: financial literacy. My name is Race Lamb. I am the founder of Faithonomics, and where I sit as the admissions director at Wake Forest University School of Divinity, I'm in a unique position to understand just how critical it is that we start providing financial literacy education to our faith leaders from day one. Therefore, I'm designing a digital community for seminary students that integrates financial literacy education into their larger vocational formation process. The seminary will be the customer, purchasing an annual membership that will provide each of its students with access to this platform. And the platform will provide financial literacy courses that are tailored synchronous and asynchronously, live webinars with field experts, and resource sharing opportunities. And this platform will become the most effective way for seminaries to equip their students with the financial formation they need to thrive. But we don't stop there, because we believe that formation happens in community. So from the ability to join and engage affinity groups that extend beyond one's institutional identity, to the ability to network and engage faith leaders from across the country, our platform positions students for long-term vocational success by helping them establish a peer support network. However, time here is very much of the essence. Within the first 5 years of their ministry, 50% of pastors will leave. So here's what I need. I aim to beta test this platform during the 2022-2023 academic year, with a full launch scheduled for summer of 2023. I need approximately $25,000 to get this platform off the ground. But if you can't invest your money, consider offsetting our costs through your time and talents. Are you a lawyer? Help us update our privacy policy in terms of use. Are you a professor? Serve as one of our curriculum designers. Are you excellent at sales? Help us come up with a sales pitch and marketing strategy. When I followed my call to seminary after coming out and being alienated by my family, losing all my financial support, I wish I had Faithonomics to help me navigate personal finance and write my own money story. Together, we can change this. I wish I had something like Faithonomics. To thank God I did have Faithonomics. And together, we can help our faith leaders flourish. Thank you.
All right. Judges. Shelley, what question do you have?
Well, I just wanted to say great job. It was good to hear how you have evolved since I heard your initial presentation some time ago. And my question would be, how would you get this in the hands of people that need it the most? What are your thoughts about that? Because it might not be something people are thinking they're going to sign up for, even though they need it.
Yes, so luckily I will be entering the market at a very opportune time. ATS just finished up a larger initiative. For those of you who don't know, ATS is the Association of Theological Schools. Just finished up a 5-year initiative called the Economic Challenges Facing Future Ministers. So right now on the theological landscape, financial literacy, financial well-being is in the forefront of everyone's mind. However, the grant money that was used to support all of this initiative is no longer in place, right? So folks will be looking for a more cost-effective way to provide the same, if not more, resources to their students. So I definitely plan to network well within the ATS community, using other organizations like FTE to get my brand out there. And this is also where my day job, my 9-to-5 job, comes in handy as well. Being a professional at a nationally recognized seminary, I will have the opportunity to actually go out and share what Faithonomics can provide.
Thank you.
Well done, Race. It's hard to get people to change behavior. I was in the financial literacy myself for quite some time, and people oftentimes don't want to acknowledge the problem, especially if it means changing something in their lifestyle. How do you hope to get people informed about the potential problems they're facing and motivated enough to do something about it?
Yeah, so when it comes to financial literacy, a lot of behaviors are centered around shame. And shame is something that has promoted other financial coaches. Take, for example, Dave Ramsey to the national spotlight. He is someone who can shame someone really well into becoming something that he wants them to do. I aim to counter that. So the Faithonomics process is going to be not only tailored to the unique needs of aspiring faith leaders, but it's going to be holistic and it will not be shame-based. So once students realize that they can engage our platform without the fear of shame, I believe it will encourage them to not only engage it fully and holistically, but also encourage their friends to join with them on their communal journey to financial wellness.
Yeah, good answer.
Great job, beautiful presentation. How will you keep them engaged? Is it how is it a one-time course? Is it an online continuous learning app? What do you see of them learning through Faithonomics?
Yeah, so Faithonomics will be offered either through a web browser, or there will be eventually a downloadable app that they can download in the App Store. We recognize that everyone's learning styles are different. So that is why we will have both asynchronous and synchronous opportunities for students to either travel at their own pace or travel together with some group accountability on their journey. But outside of kind of the coursework, this is where the community aspect of this platform really comes into play. It allows students from a seminary in Southern California to engage with students from a seminary in New York City to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia. It allows them to network beyond their denominational identities. And it allows them to share these resources and build a community of peers. And that is what will keep folks coming back and back to that platform. In addition to what is built inside the platform, there will also be ongoing special events that will be designed to get folks to log back in and re-engage the platform. So this could be, a live webinar with the one and only Shelley Bess telling us, like, we are not called to be poor, whatever that may be. And it will have the opportunity just to get people back on and re-engaged.
Well, we have to leave it there. And again, invite the community, if you want to help Race get his business off the ground and to bring more financial literacy to our community leaders. Again, we ask you to think about who you know, what you know, and the relationships that you have in your personal professional network to support him. Menti.com 2780-3243. That's the code 2780-3243.
I hope that you took that last chance to support our last fellow of the day and you went to Menti.com, you typed in those numbers and you supported Race. Now we are going to turn to our community vote because we want to hear from you on who stood out to you the most. We'd like each of you to take this next minute or two to vote for the community choice. As you vote, consider three things. The fellow who you believe is ready to test their business idea, had a clear and compelling pitch, and has a business idea with the most potential for a positive impact on people, communities, or the environment. So we'll pull up some instructions for you on where to vote and how to vote. Go to menti.com and use the code 2780-3243, or you can use the QR code on the screen right now. So go to menti.com. You should know this well by now. Enter in 2780-3243 and tell us who you believe, again, is ready to test their business idea, had a clear and compelling pitch, it moved you, has the business idea, someone who has a business idea with the most potential for a positive impact and deep impact on people, communities, and the environment.
All right. I want to welcome you back. So I just want to share a couple of things before we announce the community vote. At Do-Good-X, we really are trying to model this idea about how we as a community, particularly as community of faith, support one another. And that in our eyes, all of our fellows are worthy of support and investment. And so this afternoon, I want to first say is that we have skin in the game. And so each of our fellows will receive some kind of financial support from the Do-Good-X team. But today's runner-up is Beulah Osweke, and the winner of our this year's 2021 virtual pitch is Jocelyn Jones. So congratulations to the both of you. As our top two community votes, Jocelyn, we will invest $3,000 to support your work in getting it off the ground, and we will invest $2,000, Beulah, in your particular project as well. We want to thank each of you for joining us this afternoon to see these wonderful, inspiring stories and to know the possibilities of cultivating businesses for good. If you join us this afternoon, you will get a complimentary excerpt from a new book that Kimberly Renee Daniel, our project director for Do-Good-X, and myself have written called A Way I Know Way, an approach to Christian innovation. And so you'll receive that via email. And so we're excited for you to see that piece. If you think it's something that's worthwhile, we ask that you would support that as well. I want to thank all of my colleagues, Allison, Diva, and Kimberly, for the wonderful work that they have done to make this event what it was today. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. And we wish you a great rest of your day.